Recognizes the gentle lady from California, Representative Sanchez, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and I want to first and foremost thank all of our panelists for your testimony today. And Ms. Hilton, when I met you last year, I was impressed by your courage in speaking out in the face of the horrific circumstances that you experienced, and the fact that you're using your platform to be a voice for some of those who are the most vulnerable in our society. As the mom to a teenager, I'm horrified to hear of the abuse that many children go through in the name of, quote unquote, protecting them. So I do appreciate you taking the time today in emphasizing in particular the importance of reauthorizing the Title IV-B program, which I have to say has not seen an increase in funding since 2006. So reauthorizing Title IV-B is a bipartisan effort. You've heard there's plenty of support on this dais for that. But even modest improvements to this program can make a huge difference for at-risk youth. And surely we can all agree here that we need to do better by the children who are put in our care. But doing better by these kids isn't free. We need to increase the funding towards safe and quality programs that ensure children's safety. And we need to be funding programs that stop children from entering foster care in the first place. So things like investing in community-based prevention and protection services, and ways in which we can help keep kids with their parents or their extended family members, or even just within their own communities, I think is really critical. I just want to know, Ms. Hilton, I'll start with you. Would you agree that providing increased funding for programs that help keep kids out of foster care and ensure that they can remain with their families would be a better benefit to these kids?
Yes, I do agree with that. I believe that we need to keep children safe in their own homes and with their families as much as possible. And I believe that we should reauthorize Title IV-B to provide necessary funding to help bolster community resources and to help keep families together.
Is there anybody on the dais that doesn't think that an increase in funding would be helpful?
I will just note that you were being kind in saying that the funding level has remained the same, because after inflation, as I think I mentioned in my written testimony, it has a 14% less buying power than it did back then.
Correct. You are correct. So I think you're all in agreement that not only is it critical to renew the program, but to really put our money where our mouth is when it comes to child well-being. Ms. Manfield, I want to come to you because you mentioned the huge role that poverty plays in the removal of children from their families. And I think you stated that 75% of the children who are in the foster care system, due to a finding of neglect, very highly correlates to poverty. Is that right?
Yes, to poverty as well as to substance use disorders and drug dependencies. So,
would increasing funding to things like, SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or WIC, the Women and Infants and Children Nutritional Assistance Programs, or even programs like Head Start, would those go, do anything in terms of reducing the numbers of kids from poor backgrounds that end up in the system?
Absolutely, as well as increasing funds for childcare so that people can actually work and have safe care for their children, and especially when something happens and they might have to miss work, and not to have to rely on people who then might put them in danger of the child welfare system becoming involved, as well as programs like TANF.
Amen, sister. As a working mom, I totally feel that. It's just interesting to me that we can all agree that keeping kids out of the foster system is the better result, and yet we're not willing to make the investments in the programs that are going to keep those kids out of the foster care system. And before my time has expired, I would be remiss in failing to mention the huge disparities that face children in the foster care system, because we see Black and Latino children heavily overrepresented in the foster care system. And in fact, over the past 5 years, the rate of Latino children in foster care in this country has risen by more than 5%. We need to look at the fact that these issues don't happen in a vacuum. The racial disparities in our justice system, our foster care system, and our economy, they're all interconnected, and they sort of create this perfect storm, which causes parents who can't economically support their kids to have to surrender them into the system. I really believe in early interventions, again, to try to keep kids from ending up in the foster care system in the first place. And I want to thank the chairman for her indulgence, and I yield back.